Hey folks, Kent Kentley here, long time no see. I'm so sorry for the long delay in these videos coming out. You can see me in all my quarantined hair glory before I hit the shower. We're going to finish reading Pearl of the Soul of the World right now. And because I can't check where I left off in the last video, I'm just going to start at the beginning of the last page I was on, which means there may be some overlap, but Mr. Forehead has returned with some extra fuzz up there to wrap this book up. Saber started eagerly forward, but her cousin warned her away with a savage look. Never! Ariel tried desperately to pull away, but he still held fiercely to her hands. I'll not wed Saber! The joy that lanced through Ariel to hear him say it was almost too sweet to bear. She wanted to savor it, so tempted. Then, as she had been in the witch's tower, to forget the world and go with him. She wanted to weep, to fall into his arms, but her eyelids were marked with white stars from the witch's touch, and she had no power of tears any more. Enough, the ancient voice reproved her sternly. No more of this. You have sworn to renounce him for the sake of the world. The pearl stuff rose in a white-hot singing flash. Ariel cried out in surprise, heard Irileth's echoing cry. He dropped her hands. She saw him gazing at her own as though they were numbed or burned. Take care, she cried, bitterly aware her warning came too late. She should have broken from him long since, yet selfishly she had lingered. Irileth shook his head as if dizzy. He was able to flex his fingers a little slowly, she remembered, the white fur of the burning sword, and hoped fervently that his hurt was not great, not permanent. He gazed at her dumbstruck. The chain about her wrist had begun to glow. The Ravenna has enchanted you, he whispered. Ariel tugged at the chain, but it would not come free. Some of her sorcery is in me now. Has she given you her sorcery to wield at your will, or does her sorcery wield you? He demanded, staring at the chain. Are you now become the Ravenna's creature as wholly as I once belonged to the witch? The thought horrified her. She could not answer him. You gave your oath to me voluntarily, the pearl stuff within reminded insistently, but Ariel took no comfort. The fine interlocking links of ancient silver glimmered, unbreakably strong. Be my husband if you must, she bade Irileth. In Avaric, I shall be far away in New Ravenna. His eyes grew hard and bright, hands clenched into fists at his breast. I'll win you back, he whispered. On my life, I swear it. I'll find a way to break the ancient spell and bring you back to me. Her heart leapt to hear him say it, but she feared he did not believe a word. How could such brave nonsense ever come to pass? Surely he must realize that Ravenna's sorcery, even scattered and diminished as it was far too mighty for any mortal to overcome. She had no doubt she would never see him again, and the taste was bitter on her tongue. He called her name. Ariel! Ariel! She could not bear the pain of gazing on him more and forced herself to turn away. Someone was approaching over the black marsh flats, coming very slowly with a halting step. He must have been in view for some time, Ariel realized, unnoticed by anyone. A heron, perfectly white, skimmed the air ahead of him and alighted on the ground before Ariel. We missed the battle, I see, she remarked, cocking her head and looking about. Just as well. Who comes? Ariel asked, though even as she said it, she knew. She would know his halt step anywhere. The heron fanned her crest. The lighthouse keeper of Bern, of course. I was to fetch him at the proper hour. Ravenna's behest from long, long ago. We've been traveling for day months. Yes, the lighthouse keeper panted, drawing near. It seems an age. I feel quite spent. I was not made for such journeying. I have something for you, Lady Ariel. For Ravenna's other daughter, I see. No more. He held out to her a hoop of white metal with 12 and 1 sharp upright prongs. Is this what lay at the heart of your lighthouse flame? She asked. The pearl stuff in her blood leapt, crackling at the sight, but she herself felt no anticipation or joy. The keeper nodded. My task has always been to guard it for the world's heir. Ariel nodded and bowed her head. He placed the circlet upon her brow. The crown felt hollow, empty. Ariel scarcely noticed its weight. Her enchanted blood shimmered, singing and alive. The darkness was suddenly full of light. Lifting her eyes, Ariel saw the constellation called Maiden's Dance, by some and by others the crown wavering in heaven. Its stars drew nearer, descending, taking on the appearance of candle flames. In another moment 13 maidens stood about her, all made of golden light, all whose souls she had once rescued from the dark angel in Avaric. It seemed so long ago. Eowyn, Maria, she called them each by name. We understand at last, Maria, the first and eldest, said, how it was you should come among us. We had thought you would join us in deep heaven, but we see now that it is we who must join you here below. In the space of a moment, she dwindled, her tiny light flame floating in the air, to a light on one of the foremost prongs of the crown, burning brilliance upon its tip. Ariel felt a new sensation kindling within her. One by one, the other maidens followed the first. The crown felt filled now, but still feather light. Eowyn was last. Forgive me for having been so impatient to have you among us in Orm, she said. Cold heaven has been very lonesome without you. As she too assumed her place opposite Maria's flame, the white heron took wing and settled upon the space between the two foremost prongs. Doing so, she shrank, becoming part of the crown, head bowed to her breast, and her long, slender wings falling to flank the pale girl's cheeks. Ariel's blood answered the flame in the crown. The pearl stuff rose in her, magnified, seemed suddenly to catch fire. Ariel felt once more a keen, far-ranging perception, very like the pearls, but immeasurably stronger. The interlocking pattern of the marsh flats unfolded before her. The stars above wheeled and circled one another like burning beads. She felt that she might see the world's end if she tried, or even deeper into heaven. Time enough for that, the voice of ancient sorcery within her promised. In New Ravenna, there by such means you shall regather the soul of the world, but haste now, time is short. A cool, misty white fire ran along her skin. Ariel turned back to the others standing before her. She felt utterly alone. They had all shrunk back, staring at her. The lighthouse keeper, the Lady Silva, and the rest, even Talb, all save Irilaf, whose head was bowed to his hands. Saber stood by him, hands like hawks upon his shoulders. He seemed oblivious to her. Even her fierce look of victory had washed away in astonishment as she gazed at Ariel. It was not her eyes, though, that Ariel sought. She found Aaron among the crowd. The burning sword hung sheathed at her side, but even through the scabbard, Ariel was aware of the blade's fire stirring and brightening, answering her own. Without hesitation, the dark girl came forward. "And what of you, Aaron?" Ariel asked. "All have told me of their intentions but you. Will you go with the mariners among whom you were born back to their isles of sea in the sea of dust?" One hand resting on the pommel of her glaive, the dark girl shook her head. "I will not. Perhaps one day, yes. I was born among the mariners. Of that I have no doubt. But I was raised in other lands, and hardly feel at ease among my own people, whose tongue I do not even speak, or among the people of Zambul that once enslaved me, or anywhere. I have had but one true friend all my life." For a moment, Erin cast her gaze to the sword whispering at her side, then looked up, bold. "I care not whether some now call you Ravenna's daughter, or that you have no shadow and wear a burning crown. You are the only light I know. I want no other fellowship than yours. It seems that I alone of all this throng have it in my power to choose my road. Ariel, I would go with you." Ariel closed her eyes. She would not be alone then after all. Here at the beginning, at least, one companion would accompany her. "The flame of Orm robbed me of my shadow," she whispered, "but I am not without one ever. If not for you, Aaron, I would be lost." Fearlessly, the dark girl put her arms around her. "My darkness," breathed Ariel. Aaron answered, "My light." That's gross, I'm sorry. Really gross. Sorry, that's my editorial comment on that. Obviously, this book was written by a white person. Ariel turned and faced them all. "Fare you well," she said. No more remained to be said. Palms together, Silva and her Eastern sons bowed to her. Talb, Rashka, and the Duros made reverence. The islanders, the bowwomen, even Saber's dismounted cavalry knelt. Horatotos, Desert folk gravely nodded. Even Penderlawn and Aberclawn and the other lawns saluted her. All paid homage, but the king of Avaric, who wept, and the bandit queen, who could not console him. Aaron still had hold of her hand. The burning crown's fire seemed to affect her no more than the fire of the sword. Ariel was glad of it, for someone bold enough not to let her go. It would have been a long road to New Ravenna. The light of the crown blazed bright against the night. As she and Aaron set out, she heard Brandel's bell-sweet harp behind them. His clear young voice raised in song. On Avaric's white plain, where an Icarus now wings, to steeps of terrain from Tour of Kings, and damsels twice 7, his brides, have all become a far cry from heaven, a long road from home. Then strong hoof of a star horse must hollow him unguessed. If adamant's edge is to plunder his breast, then only may the war horse and the warrior arise to rally the war hosts and thunder the skies. But first there must assemble one Zicari would claim, a bride in the temple must enter the flame. From steeds found with steeds found for 6 brothers, beyond a dust deep sea, and new arrows reckoned a wand given wings. When a princess royals, when a princess royals to have tasted of the tree, then far from eastern East's city these things, a gathering of gargoyles, a feasting on the stone, the witch of western East's hag overthrown, whereafter shall commence such a cruel sorceress war, to wrest recompense for a land leaguered sore. With her broadsword bright burning, the shadow black as night, from exile returning, shall dare dragon's might, for love of one above who, flag unfurled lone must stand, the pearl of the soul of the world in her hand. When winter rock to water falls flooding foes to drown, Ravenna's own daughter shall kindle the crown. And that's the end of the Dark Angel trilogy. Liked the second book, didn't like the first book, really didn't like this book, nothing much happened in it. Sorry to end on such a bitter note, but you get what you pay for, and yeah, the black person as shadow metaphor needs to be dead. So there you go. Sorry if that was a disappointment, but yeah, we're done with that series now, and I will see you in the next book.